Hey guys, Matt here with UMB. Just another recap video for you all. This is Friday the 17th. Just wanted to go ahead and get this out there so that the premium alert subscribers could check it out and go through some of these alerts with us and take a look at them, see where the alerts came through, and see how us analysts would go about potentially playing these alerts. So if you're new to this channel, please hit the subscribe button. We do these alert videos. We try and get them out after each trading day on the actual alerts that came through to our alert members. Again, that way our alert members are not really, left in the dark all the time, so to speak. They can actually see how we are using these alerts and the right way to actually play them. So again, this is for Friday, October 17th, and we'll just kind of cruise right through. So as you'll see on the left-hand side of my screen over here, this is the Telegram alert system that we use. This is how the alerts come through all day long. You'll get alerts that say warming up. You'll get some that say volume spike. You'll get news alerts in here. All kinds of really good stuff. And, the idea, guys, right, when you see an alert come through is to hopefully you're in front of charts where you can immediately pull up the ticker and see what's going on. And then from there, make a decision on an entry that makes sense, right? So we here at UMB, we preach about using your edges and using a few different pretty simple indicators to analyze the charts and to take the most, the highest probability setup, right? That's what we try and teach. That's what we do ourselves. So with that said, we'll just look at SGBX. It was the first alert that came through in the morning. It was 4:49. This one didn't really do a whole lot, but we will look at it anyway, right? So right out of the morning here, you can see this thing was kind of dead earlier in the morning, and then all of a sudden we had a spike, right? We saw some volume coming in. We had a spike up. It hit our scanners. This thing hit a high up here of about 532 and started to pull back. Now, where did it pull back to? It immediately pulled back to that support level here, as you can see, which we can put a line on, of that first spike, right? So that line would actually be green in this case because we know that it is support. We pulled this up. The alert, guys, didn't actually come through till over here at 4:49. But what I'm showing you here is the start of this move. So when it hit our scanners, we saw this move. We got into this pullback here. And we really wanted to see this thing come up over VWAP again before we actually thought that it might have a good chance of getting some legs here. So it did come over VWAP. It kind of fell below. It came back over, and bam, we sent the alert out thinking, okay, this could be it. Let's get a little retest of the VWAP and go. So what you would have been looking for right away is obviously this first high. That's that's our high of the day, right? So that's definitely going to be resistance. And then our next high, which is right here, right? So you would have had two lines there kind of marking resistance. So taking a position as this thing came down and tried to hold VWAP would have been okay, but you would have known that you were only going to try and ride that thing for, 30 cents or something, which isn't a bad move, right? If we stretch this chart out, I mean, from VWAP to our first resistance was 470 to 508, almost a 40-cent move. So again, a very quick scalp, but if you set it up the right way and you took that position correctly, you could have made some decent bank there had we gotten this move. Unfortunately, it dipped down below. It reclaimed VWAP. It basically reclaimed here pretty strong. The next candle opened. It came down. It got a retest. This would have actually, for me, and probably for some of you, could have faked you out because that's what we're looking for, right? When we dip below VWAP and we reclaim with a full candle close, we want to see the next one come back down and give us a retest and close. Well, look what happened if we blow this up. It absolutely came down and it absolutely closed above VWAP. So the next candle opened. This would have been a signal to take a position. We got our break, we got our retest, and go, right? So the only unfortunate part about this candle, and this is where your indicators come into play, is the MACD at that point was just about closed off. So, and certainly as we got into our next candle here, which ended up being a doji, it was closed off, if you can see this. So if you were watching the MACD there, that would have, essentially told you, hey, don't jump in just yet. If you had, regardless, you would have gotten right out as soon as we lost VWAP, because that's the idea. So again, we want to keep our losses to a minimum and then maximize our gains. So as soon as you lose your support, your VWAP, the MACD goes negative, your EMA start flipping on each other, that's a sign to get out and take a new position. So that was SGBX. Again, it really didn't have a whole lot to offer. That first move this morning could have been nice. Unfortunately, nobody had any idea this was just going to spike off like that. So it's very typical for us to miss that first move before it actually hits the scanner, and then we try and figure out, is this thing going to continue for you? So that was SGBX. We'll just keep moving right along. ARTV came through at 453, so let's take a look at that. ARTV, and forgive me, my charts are loading a little bit slow here. Having an issue with our internet here today, so it will eventually come up, I hope, for purposes of this video. All right, ARTV, it's going to take a second for this chart to load. Just bear with me there, guys. And then we'll go ahead and we'll get into a few more for you. So there's a lot today. It was not as good as Monday, that's for sure. But hey, it was better than the last few days. So there was a lot to be had. You just had to be on charts, watching. So all right, so that alert came through at 4:53 this morning. That would have been, so we had our initial 4 a.m. spike. We fell off. We got down in this range somewhere. We reclaimed VWAP right about here, and that's where that alert came through, right here. So immediately, you got a lot to look at here, right? Because you would have saw all this jargon back here. Okay, we're under VWAP. We tried to get over. We couldn't. We failed. We dropped down from, this 4 a.m. open up here, so we're still kind of low. So you likely would have been able to, and forgive me, I got lines on here from when we were actually trading it, but you would have had this marked up here as obviously your resistance to get through, and I probably would have had the, let's see, where was that at? 453 was in here. I'm just trying to see what would have still been showing on the chart. At very least, this high right behind you, right? Like, we would have known that, like, we haven't had a higher high than this since that initial open back here. So really that's going to create some resistance in and of itself, but shouldn't be too hard to get through. So when the alert came through, right about here, it came down, it held VWAP, it started to bounce. That could have been a position. If you took one here, right, you would have been watching this line here where it rejected, it came back down. You were still green, right, because you took your position off this VWAP bounce, it bounced up, you got a little greener. This is really, kind of a choppy time to be trading this. We were really hoping for more of a bounce and go up to the upside. We didn't get that right away, but certainly, we had a nice move there not too long later. So as we moved through the chart, we dipped below VWAP, and this is really where you guys got to be watching these things, or at least checking back in on them. So once we actually ended up reclaiming VWAP here, this was actually a really good move. So, the rest of the indicators were aligning. The MACD was open, and we were below VWAP. We reclaimed, we came down, we tested, we bounced around a little, and then bam, we had that first candle that shot up to test that resistance. It couldn't really break it. It pulled back, and bam, it broke, right? So as soon as that candle broke, for me, that would have signaled an entry right in this location here, right? Because otherwise, what are you really playing? I mean, you would have played 553 to 580. So, almost a 30-cent move, not bad, but you knew that you had resistance here because it kept rejecting it. So right here would have been your entry, and then you could have rode that up to the top. For about maybe like a 12% move. If you had taken it off of VWAP, like a VWAP reclaim, and you held on, which you easily could have done, more like a 17% move. So not bad at all, for a quick scalp in there. And then I think the rest of the day, like we had another move in the afternoon, which was about a 20% move here. That was a good one as well. So we had some spikes in here after that first move. It was kind of difficult to play. But using that 5, 8, 13 reclaim strategy, if we just kind of crunch this down a little bit, there we go, widen this up a little. Using that 5, 8, 13 reclaim strategy, you can see how, like in here below VWAP, which we don't really recommend trading, but if you're experienced enough and you do have some of these other strategies at your disposal and you're experienced using them, you definitely can. Like in here where we dipped down low and our VWAPs were flipped on, or I'm sorry, our EMAs were actually flipped on each other. Right here, they actually broke, right? We got a 1 minute candle break and our EMAs flipped back on each other. This could have been a position where you rode it up and it pulled back into your EMAs. It got just about to your entry there. The EMAs got really tight on each other. They almost wanted to flip. The MACD almost closed. And then, bam, we got this monster candle up, and we were looking really good. It pulled back from there. It fell under your EMAs, but you were still pretty green. It jumped back up, and then we went into this monster candle that ended up being a nice VWAP reclaim. So you can see how using that 5, 8, 13 strategy, like it would have been pretty straightforward to grab this move right here from under VWAP, which again is not an easy thing to do, and we don't recommend it for beginner traders, to grab that move right there during the during the intraday for a good 12% jump. So again, not bad at all. The same thing happened here in this location. We had a couple micro ones here. We had one happen back here. So you can see how all day there was some pretty good scalping opportunities before we got to this kind of later in the day move back here, which actually ended up being really good. I mean, we had some rockets that kind of shot off there. So what we dealt with, you can see I still have my charting up from when I traded. So what I was watching here was I knew we had a liquidity zone in here somewhere, right? Because we had come up here from being down pretty low, and we had wicked into it. We dipped way down in here. We came up into that zone and we wicked into it again. We dipped down. We came up. We almost wicked into that zone there. We came down, we wicked into the zone here, right? That's telling me that this whole zone here is like a big kind of, liquidity zone, right? Where chances are when it gets up there, it's going to reverse. So later in the day, around noon, when we got up back over VWAP here, this was an interesting time because we started seeing the volume really kind of pick up. From you could see these small volume bars in here, right? And then all of a sudden, when we got over VWAP here, we really started seeing the volume pick up. We had a spike into that zone, a little bit through it, and a pullback, a spike, a little bit through it. And what this was telling me, guys, was, hey, there was a squeeze coming, right? Because as you can see here, and I had this charted out. I personally took a play right in here somewhere. What I was watching for was this squeeze to play out. I was not going to take a position until we got a break here of this zone. So, because I knew that we kept rejecting it for the last several hours. So, but what I was watching was interesting, and it happens all the time. What we essentially get is a spike into the zone, a pullback, right? Another spike, a pullback. Kind of dance around here, a spike into the zone, a pullback. But what do you guys notice about this chart that's staying consistent, right? We are riding an upward trend line here, right? Whenever we're riding an upward trend line and we're also continuously filling this same liquidity zone, it tells you that a squeeze is coming. And what that essentially is a point in time on a chart during the trading day where the price action's getting really small, but it's still being traded pretty heavily, and it cannot break a particular zone. Well, what happens when you think we get to the end of that price action, right? It has to go one way or the other. When it gets up here in this point where this zone meets this line, this is the squeeze zone. And so you can almost time it perfectly. So when I had this drawn, I knew in my head, if I looked down at my time around 1:30, I said, I knew in my head, I said, well, 1:30 at the absolute latest, this thing is either going to dump or it is going to squeeze. And there is a way, there are other tools and indicators you can use, mostly analyzing level 2 input to figure out which one of those is going to happen. We're not going to get into that right now. Regardless, you can see I knew that this was going to happen. I really needed to see a close and break of this zone. And so what we got was on the 30-second, because that's usually what I watch as we're approaching a squeeze. What I got, and this is why I watch it, because you could see on my other chart, our 1 minute chart just had a candle straight up. I would have never been able to get in because I don't take a position while a candle is, moving in the upward direction. That is essentially chasing. You're going to end up buying in on a wick if you do that. So we got this break here. I knew we were great because the first time we got out of this zone, the candle closed, and I immediately bought in my position right here. And I rode this thing up all the way into here. And I knew that we were coming up on that previous resistance. I ended up scaling here. It pulled back. When we pulled back and we slammed back up over our EMAs, I actually scaled here. I still had 50% here. When we slammed back up over the EAs, I re-added 50% back into my position, right? Because I knew that we were going to go up higher. I could tell by the volume profile. I could tell by reading the MACD. And it just kind of told me, hey, this thing's going to keep going. So sure enough, it did. And we ended up getting, I don't want to move my zone. I ended up getting sorry guys, let me move this up. Somewhere around, I didn't hit that absolute top, that's for sure. I think I hit somewhere like a 15% move or so. Not bad, guys, right? So, this was actually a fun one to trade today. There was lots of opportunities on it, especially the squeeze zone that came up. If you'd like me to break down this kind of squeeze zone and how to identify these on other charts more, I am happy to do so. They actually occur all day long. When us analysts are live trading together, we identify these things all day, and we can pinpoint almost to the exact minute, at least the exact 5 minutes, that something is going to happen. So that was ARTV. And let's just go into a few other ones. Let's look at some news on XRTX. So XRTX came through. That was at 7 a.m. So let's go. Let's cruise back here. There's all our 8 a.m. spikes. All right, so yeah, this was a monster, guys, and I really hope that you were able to take advantage of this. I thought, no, we didn't have warming up. We had a news alert first at 7, then we had a volume spike at 7:02. So just to give you an idea of what time that was, you can see what had happened was initially we had a spike up at 7, right? 7:02 is this candle here. This is where the alert came through. So the way you would have played this, and the way I played it for sure, was when we saw this thing, we knew, you can see my red line here, that's my resistance because that's the high of these wicks. We knew that it really, after it had dipped back down after our alert, okay, we're hugging our EMAs, we're bouncing up and below VWAP, so like all that's good. We're just dealing with a little bit of consolidation in here. The volume really fell off as well, right? There wasn't much volume, but so everything was consolidating. We knew we had this resistance and we were waiting for that break. So once we got that break, that occurred right in here at about 7:23. This is actually where, once we got that break and this candle opened, I let it pull back a little bit. I knew it wasn't going to completely retest. Took a position right here and was able to ride this thing up to not all the way to the top of that wick, probably somewhere about right in there, like 47% move. I mean, just awesome, guys, right? So, I mean, that total move, if you had timed that wick perfectly and you got in at where our alert was a 63% move. I mean, that was just an absolute monster. So that was XRTX. After that, it fell way off. It came down. It sat on our old resistance line as support, so that was great, right? So we watched it all day. It stayed above that line, and then it fell below. It reclaimed. It got back above. We're above VWAP. It kind of just danced around, but like this, this opportunity in here to use our 5-8-13 reclaim strategy would have been perfect, right? You could have rode that from $1.10 up to $1.33. So you can see how that strategy is like super important, and it provides opportunity all day long, even when there is some chop. So the rest of the day we had a bunch of a bunch of scalping opportunities on it that you could have played again. But really, that first move and this one here would have been the awesome moves for this guy. So let me go through and find another one for you. So let's look at Rainy. So we got a volume spike on RANI, and that came through at $1.50 at 7.53. So this first candle kind of went off. 7.53. It was climbing a little bit. We didn't get the alert out until, let's see, somewhere in here after it started to pull back for like a little VWAP bounce. Well, so what's the first thing you're going to do, right? Right away, you're like, all right, we already had a high. Let's get that marked, right? Because we know that that's what we need to try and break through in order for there to be another play on the table. And we were just watching, right? So dancing around VWAP, watching. It got up in here. It broke that high, which you could have taken a position in here, right? The issue here was that we were getting really close to market open, and that's just never a good time to be buying anything. Regardless, when we broke that high, we got this massive wick down. I mean, look at the size of that wick once we finally broke that high. So that would have told you, hey, this thing's possibly picking up liquidity, knocking out some stop losses, maybe it's going to run. So if you had taken a position here on this next candle, that would not have been a bad move. We broke our high. We had a big liquidity sweep, and the next candle opened, right? So you got a little scalp there, but then it pulled back, and you would have gotten out, probably here when it finally broke down underneath of that original resistance line. So then it just kind of chopped around for a while. Not really a whole lot to play on it until we get later in the day. So around 11 a.m., we broke that high, but we really broke it with some steam, right? So you could have definitely been watching for this here. Once we got this massive candle up, you knew that this thing, was going to get some legs and was getting some volume. So coming out of this candle, that would have been an okay buy here to this top here. And then a dip down to basically your entry. So you probably still would have been in unless you had skimmed some profits there. And then from there, we had a nice run up all the way to, let's try and get to the top, all the way to 238. So really, guys, I mean, from the time of this one was hard to play because it was choppy and you had to be watching, until for later in the day there. But from the time that alert came out, which was somewhere in here at $1.41, it ran almost $1 to 240, right? So that would have been a really nice play had you just bought and hold, which we never recommend, but we do like to look at the overall percentage of that ticker that day. It gives us an idea of, was there some strength in it at some point into the day? Was there the ability to actually trade it? So, and there definitely was on here. So that was RANI. Let's look at maybe one or two more here just to get through. I'll go a little bit later in the day. Let's look at so GWH came through at 1020. GWH at 1020. Let's see what that looks like. All right, so 1020 was this candle here. This thing had been moving all day, but it was choppy, and it just really didn't signal, that it had a lot of strength to get through this high back here from earlier. So once we got up close, we got that alert out in here, and we got a continuation play for a high up there of 668. So that alert came out in this area here at 569, and it ran just about $1 to 669, about 20%. So not a bad play at all. You would have basically pulled up this chart. You would have scrolled back, and you would have saw essentially. Sorry, let me just get my right lines here. You would have saw, something like that as resistance. So as we came up to resistance, we ended up you would have had this line up as a high. Like, okay, well, we need to break that, right? Because if we gave you the alert here and we have a high line right here, you know that, hey, I don't have much room to run, so I don't want this thing to get to that line and then reject. So I'm not going to take a position right away until it actually breaks. So if you did let that thing break and you got a position, let's say somewhere in here, now we always wait for that first candle to close. So realistically, you know, it could have been up here by the time you took a position. What we want to actually see is the retest of that line. Now, this thing went up, it went up, it went up, it went up, and then it started to pull back, pull back, pull back, and you can see what happened in here. We got that retest of that line. So your position probably would have been somewhere in there. And when we got up here and we had a little tweezer top, we call this a tweezer top. When we see two wicks like this, kind of, you know, at the top of a move, we know that that move is kind of coming to an end. So this little ride in here would have been, yeah, about a 12, maybe even a 14% move. So that's how you would have played this. The rest of the day, you knew in your head as this thing was coming down, okay, we got VWAP. We also have our support line here. It bounced on that old resistance line. It broke under. It came back up. It couldn't hold. It broke under. And then all day long, or the rest of the day, it just kind of fizzled out underneath VWAP, which is never really a good zone to be in. And that was really about it. So that was GWH. This was a runner the other day as well. It was actually really good. So it was kind of a multi-day play there, but nonetheless, there was plenty of opportunity on it. No question. So let's see. Let's look at. Let's just go a little later in the day and do another one for you guys. I'm just looking through. There was a bunch of alerts that came through. So if there's any that I don't do in this video that you would like me to redo, I am happy to do so. Let me just take a little look here. So we got LNKS. That was a decent one. Let's see. I'm just going through these and try and find one that's good. So let's look at LNKS. That came through right after market close at 4 o'clock. So LNKS, and again, give me a minute, give me a second for this chart to load. All right, so let's try and find 4 p.m. on it. That was a spike earlier in the day, so we knew we had some action. Didn't do much all day until we got to 4 p.m. And this is what 4 p.m. action looks like just after market close. So 4 p.m. was right here. So that alert came through, let's see, 4:12, which was in this area here, right about here. So at 4:12, the price was 88 cents. You knew that from earlier in the day. You would have immediately closed this chart like this and said, well, where are we? Well, this was the high earlier in the day here. So if we went ahead and had a line on it as our high, look what happens when we zoom back into where the alert came through. We were right at it, guys. So actually, we were above it. It was already confirming as support. When this alert went out, guys, it was already a buy right out of the gate. We had broken our high. We came back. We had a retest in here. This was an instant buy. So in some rare cases, the alerts come through like that if they are timed correctly, which we try to do. They're not always that way, and we have no idea what the market's going to do. So this was, you know, it just ended up working out. So you could have taken your position here. We had a nice jump up. We came down. We retested our position, our support line, came up, came down, and then really started taking off thereafter to a high all the way up at like $1.20. So from the time that alert came through right here, that was an immediate buy. You had a 35% jump, guys. I mean, just, you know, an awesome stock to play. That was really good. STKE, we'll do another one real quick. I liked that one. STKE came through as a volume spike at 418. Let's look at that quickly. Let me see. Come on, chart. All right, that's TKE. That was a volume spike at 418. So 418 is in this neighborhood here. and that came through at $4, which must have been the top. Let's see, 417.30, 418. So it came through right here, guys, right on this green candle. So right away, if you had crunched your chart down, you would have saw, okay, we didn't really have a high, before that. So we're not really fighting any resistance. So we come up and we make a new high right away, dip down, make another new high, dip down, almost make a new high, dip down. It was kind of hard to play in here, but it looked really good. And then finally, we had our break, and this thing went to a high of 464. So that thing, it ran 64 cents from the time of the alert, which was really good. And it was harder to play because when the alert went out, again, we had all this choppiness in here, which I don't recommend playing. So really the thing you would have been looking for was a break of like either this wick or kind of, it's really this high in here, this zone. It's like 407, 406 zone. So you would have had a line there, which you would have been waiting for it to break. And then if you kept this on charts and you saw that break back here, you would have gotten in right after this break, right? And then boom, for that ride up. So that would have been the safest way to play this. There are other ways that we haven't covered yet, using different indicators and candlestick analysis, which we won't get into here, but we are going to be making more of these videos which detail that stuff. So I'm going to wrap this up with those ones for today, guys. As I always say in these videos, there's no way I could make a video to do every one of these alerts and break them all down. I obviously could. It would be a 2-hour video at least, and I don't expect you guys to, sit here and listen through all that. So the idea is to get some of them out there so that you can see what we're playing as the alerts come through, and how we would play them as the actual analyst. So if you did watch through this, if you are getting the alerts, if there was one that you hoped that I would break down for you, I am more than happy to do so. So just get in the comments, just let us know that. If you aren't subscribed to the alerts and you want to be, again, get in the comments, let us know. Go to our Facebook group, UMB Wealth, right? Get in there, subscribe to the Facebook group, leave us a comment, message us. We will certainly answer you. We will get you the information to join, to sign up for our alerts. And then you can look forward to having these alert video breakdowns every day after the day has closed. And you have our full commitment and support to any particular alert or play that you tried to trade during the day. We will walk you through it personally, if that's what it takes to try and teach you maybe a different or better way that us analysts would have traded that same alert. So that's it for today, guys. Really appreciate you watching. Make sure to like the video. Leave us a comment if you're enjoying these things. It takes a little bit of work and time to get them done, but we are committed to doing it because we know how important it is to our alert members to be able to watch these and figure out exactly what we're doing with these alerts. So with that said, enjoy the weekend, and let's hope for a good Monday.